Hello, scholars. I apologize for my absence, and I hope that you have a nice class without me. Please incorporate these into your notes and write down any questions you may have, and we will start class on Wednesday with your questions. So today we're going to be talking about new ideologies that come into Europe and really revolutionize and change Europe as we know it. So moving right along, please pause it here, and I want you to try and remember what the Congress of Vienna was. We talked about this last week. If you can't remember, please go back and look in your notes. So hopefully if you wrote that down, you recall what the Congress of Vienna is, and the four things you're looking at right here, these are four main ideas that were discussed during the Congress of Vienna. I apologize. So here, let's break them down. First things first, we have conservatism, and basically it is exactly what it sounds like. What the members of the Congress of Vienna wanted to do was to keep things traditional, keep things the way they were. They didn't want a lot of change. If there was going to be change, they wanted it very, very slow. The next is the concert of Europe. I want you to think of the concert of Europe as kind of like the mean girls of Europe. There are 5 members of the concert of Europe. We have Austria, Russia, Prussia, England, and France. These 5 countries are the mean girls. They dictate everything that goes on in Europe for about 50 years, just like the mean girls in the movie The Mean Girls. So they are the big bosses. The next thing that the Congress of Vienna talks about is legitimacy. What the members of the Congress of Vienna wanted to do was to restore the legitimate ruler back to power throughout all of Europe. So for example, when Napoleon Bonaparte knocked the King of Spain out of power and put his brother into power in Spain, the Congress of Vienna wanted to put the rightful ruler back in Spain. Who is the rightful ruler of France? Take a minute, pause, figure out who is the rightful ruler of France, the legitimate ruler of France. Principle of intervention. Basically, exactly what it sounds like. To intervene means to get involved, means to stop something. So what the principle of intervention means is that the concert of Europe countries, who we just talked about, the mean girls, they were the big bosses. If any other country throughout Europe did something they didn't like, they were going to intervene, and they were going to intervene with their armies. So for example, if Italy did something they didn't like, the concert of Europe would send armies into Italy to stop it. If the German states did something they didn't like, the concert of Europe would send armies into the German states and stop it. Moving right along. Conservatism was the name of the game from 1815 to about 1850. The concert of Europe liked it this way. They didn't like change. Napoleon changed everything, so they wanted to go back to tradition. So we have new groups that really challenged conservatism. The first we're going to talk about is liberalism. Now, you may have heard of this word now. Some people refer to Democrats as being liberal. I want you to scratch that from your mind, because 19th century liberalism, basically all it means is that liberals liked the ideas of the Enlightenment. They liked Montesquieu, they liked Rousseau, they liked Voltaire, they liked free speech, they liked natural born rights, they liked democracy. So it's a little different from what we think of it today. Radicalism, we've talked about before. I want you to go ahead and write down radicalism in your notes. If you forgot what it is, go back in your notes. Nationalism, we've talked about this as well. Write it down what you think it is. If you forgot, go back in your notes. Remember, if there's anything you can't remember and can't find in your notes, leave it blank, and we will talk about it on Wednesday. Now, this is a doozy. This is the new stuff, and it's a whole new concept and a new ideology, and it comes from a European named Karl Marx, who wrote a book called The Communist Manifesto. And basically what he's introducing is a new ism, a new idea, a new ideology, and it's communism. We're going to talk about communism in just a moment, but basically what you're looking at right here, all of these new isms, they are challenging conservatism. They are challenging the concert of Europe. The concert of Europe has control from 1815 to 1848. So what ends their control? All of these groups. So let's take a quick moment and talk about communism. So basically, what Karl Marx was really bothered by was the Industrial Revolution. He talked about that the middle class was oppressing the working class. Life wasn't fair. It was horrible working conditions, horrible living conditions. He was against laissez-faire. He truly believed that the government should be in total control of the economy. He believed that there should be economic equality for all. And so what you're looking at here, you have socialism and communism. He believed that all countries in the world should eventually become communist. And basically what that is what you're looking at. No private property, everything shared equally, complete government control. How you get to communism is by slowly turning socialist. So communism is complete socialism. It's kind of like the finished product. If that doesn't make sense, make a note. We'll come back on Wednesday. What you're looking at here is a very, very important symbol. It's the hammer and the sickle. It is the communist symbol that is still the communist symbol today. What you're looking at is the unity between the two big working groups of the Industrial Revolution. You have the hammer. Think of the industrialists using the hammer, people in the factories, etc. The sickle is this thing, what you're looking at right here. These are the farmers. So it's the working class uniting. It's the working class getting equality. It's the working class no longer being oppressed. If that doesn't make sense, please let me know on Wednesday. Right here, this is just a great graph that I believe really shows the differences between capitalism and socialism. Capitalism is what we have here in this country. I don't have to call the President of the United States to ask if I'm going to quit my job and start, a rubber band kiosk. Laissez-faire. You do what you want. Supply and demand. Socialism, complete opposite. The government has total control. So you can add that into your notes. Another new idea that is a little bit different, but still an ism and still comes about at the same time, is, well, I guess it's not an ism, sorry about that. It's Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin, he wrote about the challenges that organisms and people go through life, push and pull struggle. He never termed the word evolution. However, we now think of evolution with Charles Darwin, survival of the fittest type of thing. A great example is that there was a moth that was white before the Industrial Revolution, 1700s and before. And eventually what happened over time is because of the Industrial Revolution, everything was so polluted and disgusting and covered with soot from the factories that this moth eventually changed color to black, because what was happening is that this white moth was sticking out on everything covered in the black soot, and its predators can eat it. Does that make sense? If not, let me know. Germany, he really adopted his ideas. If you think of, I know we haven't talked about this yet, but we've talked about Hitler probably in other classes, survival of the fittest. Hitler truly believed that the Aryan race was the fittest. Again, all of this we're going to come back to around March, but I just wanted to kind of give you a little foreshadowing. The final ism, this is a super easy one. This is a new art period. It's called Romanticism. And one thing I want you to understand is even though it's called Romanticism, it doesn't mean that everything is romantic. Basically what Romanticism is, it is emotional. There are lots of emotions. I want you to take a quick second, pause, and think of every emotion known to man. You probably can think of sad, scary, surprised, depressed. What Romanticism is that these artists were trying to get you to feel something, have an emotion. Sometimes it was love, but not necessarily. It was also an emphasis on the individual, being unique. Some of our artists were Mary Shelley. She wrote the book Frankenstein. Her mom was Mary Wollstonecraft. Take a moment. I want you to write down what you remember about Mary Wollstonecraft. If you forgot, please check back in your notes. Frankenstein was basically a book about how if you relied too much on science, you would create a monster and would kill us all. The Romantic period is a true reaction to the Enlightenment. It's a true reaction to being too logical, being too realistic. Edgar Allan Poe, William Wordsworth, two very famous Romantic poets. Eugene Delacroix, very famous French painter, Romantic painter. Ludwig van Beethoven, musician. I think you probably have heard about him before. He eventually went deaf. He, felt the vibrations, and that's how he was a tremendously talented pianist. And he really changed music. There's so much emotion in his music. This last question, I really want you to try and think about this. How was Romanticism a response to the cultural domination during the Napoleonic Wars? I want you to do your best, and I want you to try and come up with an answer to that question. And we'll talk about it again on Wednesday. And lastly, I know these notes were quick, and I probably would have blabbed your ears off for a solid hour in class. So I want you to try and do your best, incorporate them into your notes, highlight, mark near where you have questions. With the remainder of your time, I want you to complete the small primary source activity about women during the Industrial Revolution. You are free to work with a partner if you choose. If not, just do it on your own. And then next, also on Blackboard, you will see there is a small assignment. There's a couple of pages from the Communist Manifesto that I would like you to read. And there are, I think, 4 questions I'd like you to complete. This will not be turned in. However, the questions will appear on the test. So if you don't have time to do this now, don't worry about it. All you need to do is get this done by the day of the test. Thank you for your time. I hope that you have a lovely day. Please email me if you have any questions at all, and I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday. Thanks.